A confession. Written on the first day of December 1893. I have been breastfeeding my dead daughter for 3 years, and tonight the milk runs black. Let me say it again, for I know you will not believe me the first time. I know the words themselves will seem impossible, obscene, the ravings of a woman whose mind has shattered beneath the weight of grief. But I assure you, I swear to you on whatever remains of my immortal soul, that what I tell you is true. I have been nursing my dead daughter for 3 years, every day, sometimes twice daily, and the milk that has sustained her, that has brought her back, that has made her grow, has turned black as pitch, black as the grave, black as the darkness that waits beneath the earth, where corpses rot and something worse than death takes root. You think me mad. I see it already, though you are not here, though I write this alone in my study with only the December wind for company. I see your face contorting with revulsion, with horror, with that particular expression reserved for mothers who have transgressed so completely that they can no longer be called mothers at all, but must be named something else, something monstrous, something that has no place in civilized society. But hear me, please, for if you do not understand what I have done and why I have done it, then no one will ever know the truth of what occurred in Ashworth House during these 3 terrible, miraculous, impossible years. My name is Catherine Ashworth. I am 31 years old, though I look 70. The mirror in my dressing room tells me this each morning, shows me the grey hair that was once chestnut, the lines that have carved themselves into my face like rivers cutting through stone, the hollowness in my cheeks that makes me appear skeletal, cadaverous, as though I am the corpse and not my daughter. I am the widow of Jonathan Ashworth, who died of pneumonia in the winter of 1889, leaving me alone in this great stone house on the edge of the Lancashire moors with our infant daughter Emma, and the modest fortune that has sustained us. Sustained me, I should say, for Emma has not needed sustaining in any conventional sense for quite some time now. Emma died at 6 months old on December 1st, 1890, 3 years ago tonight. 3 years ago at precisely 20 minutes past midnight, while I slept in the bed beside her cradle, exhausted from caring for her alone, with no husband to share the burden, no mother to offer guidance, only myself and my love and my desperate, terrible desire to ease her suffering. The doctors said it was natural causes, that convenient, meaningless phrase they employ when an infant simply stops breathing with no wound, no fever, no obvious malady to explain why life should suddenly abandon such a small and perfect vessel. They spoke in those carefully modulated tones physicians use when addressing women. They believe incapable of understanding medical complexities, about how these tragedies simply occur sometimes, about God's mysterious will, about how I must not torment myself with questions that have no answers. But I knew, oh God, how I knew, even as they spoke their soothing lies, even as they patted my hand and prescribed laudanum for my hysteria, I knew the truth. I killed my daughter, not with a pillow, not with violence, not with any single deliberate act of murder, but I killed her nonetheless, as surely as if I had placed my hands around her tiny throat and wheezed. I killed her with love, with tenderness, with a desperate desire to ease her pain. I killed her with teething powder, the teething powder, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup, Godfrey's Cordial, Atkinson's Royal Infant's Preservative. Do you know these names? Of course you do. Every mother knows them, every nursery contains them, every chemist sells them in those cheerful little tins with the rosy-cheeked babies on the label. The names alone inspire confidence, do they not? Royal, soothing, preservative, What mother would not wish to preserve her infant? What mother would not seek to soothe her child's pain? I used them all. When Emma began teething at 4 months, so early, the doctor said, so precocious, she screamed, howled, writhed in my arms as though demons tormented her, and I, desperate to help her, desperate to be a good mother, went to the chemist and purchased every remedy he recommended. Every night for 2 months, I dipped my finger in the powder, that miraculous white powder that promised relief, and let Emma suckle it from my fingertip while I sang her lullabies. Hush Little Baby was her favourite. I sang it every night while she took the powder, and every night she calmed, ceased her fussing, drifted into the most profound and peaceful sleep, her small chest rising and falling with such gentle regularity that I would watch her for hours, grateful beyond measure for whatever magic the powder contained. Magic! Yes, that is what I thought it was. Magic, a miracle sent from heaven to exhausted mothers. But it was not salic, it was poison, mercury. Did you know they put mercury in teething powder? Of course you did not. How could you? The chemists do not advertise such things. The manufacturers do not print it on their cheerful labels. They use gentle words like proven formula and time-tested remedy and perfectly safe for infants. They do not mention that the powder contains mercury and morphine and chloroform, that with every loving administration, every gentle application to a baby's aching gums, mothers are slowly, methodically poisoning their own children. The mercury accumulates, you see, builds up in the soft tissue, in the developing brain, in the tiny organs that are still learning how to function. It happens slowly, over weeks, over months. There is no single moment when you can say, here, this is when I killed her. It is gradual, insidious, invisible. Until one night the baby simply stops breathing because her small body can absorb no more, because her nervous system has been so thoroughly compromised that it can no longer remember how to tell her lungs to expand, her heart to beat. I killed my daughter, with my own hands, with my own milk-wet finger dipped in poison, night after night after night, while singing, "Hush, little baby," while telling her I loved her, while believing I was helping her. The guilt is not a metaphor, it is not a figure of speech, it is a physical thing that lives in my chest, that wraps around my lungs like iron bands and squeezes with every breath I take. It wakes me at precisely 20 minutes past midnight, every night without fail, and whispers in my ear, in Emma's voice, "You killed me, Mama. You killed me with love." But guilt is not the strangest part of my story. Every mother knows guilt. Every mother lies awake wondering if she has done enough, been enough, loved enough. No, the strange part, the impossible part, the part that makes me question whether I'm writing truth or confession from an asylum, is what happened after Emma died. Welcome to Fright Club. Here we honour the old masters, Poe, Jackson, the writers who knew that the deepest horror comes from within. We craft tales in their tradition, psychological, visceral, unflinching. Subscribe for more Gothic horror. Comment where you're watching from. Now, let me tell you about the milk. The milk did not stop. After Emma died, after I found her cold and still in her cradle that December morning, after the doctors came and pronounced her dead, after the undertaker arrived to take her small body away, my breasts continued to produce milk. This is not unusual, the doctor said. The body does not understand immediately. Lactation continues for days, sometimes weeks, until the lack of nursing signals the brain to cease production. Bind your breasts tightly, he instructed. Do not express. The pressure will be uncomfortable, but your body will soon realize the child is gone, and the milk will dry up naturally. But it did not dry up. It did not dry up. For 2 weeks I bound my breasts with strips of linen until I could barely breathe. I wore my tightest corsets. I endured pressure so excruciating I wanted to claw at my own flesh just to release some small measure of it, and the milk only increased. My breasts grew heavier, harder, burning hot to the touch. The milk leaked through every binding, soaked through my morning dress, dripped onto the floor when I moved. My body insisted, with a biological certainty that overrode all reason, that Emma still needed feeding, that she was merely in the next room, that if I would only nurse her, this terrible fullness would be relieved. After 2 weeks I could bear it no longer. I defied the doctor's orders and began to express the milk manually, squeezing it from my breasts into a basin, watching the white streams arc through the air and splash into the porcelain bowl. The relief was immediate, overwhelming, almost obscene in its intensity, a physical pleasure so profound it felt like sin, like violation, like something I should not be experiencing while my daughter lay dead. Except she did not lie dead in the ground. Not yet, not ever as it turned out. But I am getting ahead of myself. The point, the crucial point, is that the milk did not decrease after I began expressing it. It increased. My body began producing more milk than it ever had when Emma was alive, copiously, abundantly, as though Emma had become not one infant but 10, all nursing simultaneously. I expressed milk 4 times daily, morning, midday, evening, night. I filled basin after basin, bottle after bottle, and still my breasts would fill again within hours, tight and painful and leaking. The doctor was baffled. He examined me repeatedly, palpated my breasts with his cold professional hands, questioned me about my diet, my activities, my state of mind. He found nothing wrong. Physiologically, I was perfectly healthy. Hystria, he finally pronounced. Your mind is unable to accept the child's death, and so your body continues to prepare for her return. It will pass. Time heals all wounds, Mrs. Ashworth. But it did not pass. And as the weeks stretched into months, I began to understand something the doctor could not comprehend. My body knew something my mind refused to accept. Emma was not gone, not entirely. Now let me tell you what I have not told anyone, what I have barely admitted to myself until this moment. I never buried Emma. Oh, there was a funeral, a proper service in our family chapel with the vicar and his empty platitudes. There was a tiny white coffin, beautifully made, lined with silk. There was a procession to the Ashworth family plot. There was the lowering of the coffin into the ground. But the coffin was empty. Emma's body was here, in the house. Hidden in the ice house where I had been storing the milk, I kept her. Let me explain how this came to be. The undertaker came the day after Emma died, Mr. Blackwood, speaking in hushed tones about the necessity of acting quickly, about preparations that must be made. He reached for Emma, reached to take her from my arms, and I found I could not release her. Mrs. Ashworth, he said gently, I must take her now? No. I understand this is difficult, but this is my house, she is my daughter. You will not take her. He glanced at the doctor. Some silent communication passed between them, that look men exchange when confronted with a hysterical woman. Perhaps we might return tomorrow. You will not return at all. I am keeping her. That is not possible. There are laws. Get out. They left. Both of them. Retreated from my grief and my fury, they sent the vicar that afternoon. He spoke of Christian burial. of proper rites. I told him the soul had departed and flesh belonged to the mother who made it. He left as well. Over the next 3 days, various people tried to reason with me. The doctor, the vicar, my sister, all of them speaking about acceptance, about letting go, but I would not surrender her. The thought of Emma in the ground, in the darkness, decomposing, no, 1,000 times no. On the 4th day they gave up. They would bury an empty coffin and let me keep the body if that was what I needed. "She'll come round," I heard the doctor tell my sister. "The body will decay and the smell will force her to surrender it." But I had already begun the preservation. Our estate has an ice house built into the hillside, a deep cellar that stays frozen year-round. I had explored it thoroughly in the days after Emma's death, measuring the temperature, understanding what it could do. On the night before the funeral, I took Emma down to the ice house. I had prepared a small room in the deepest chamber, lined the walls with stone. I wrapped Emma in linen, layer upon layer upon layer, until she was cocooned in white. I placed her wrapped body in a small wooden box, and I put the box in that frozen chamber and sealed the door with a heavy stone. The cold would preserve her, stop the decay. She would remain as she was, my Emma, frozen in time. I attended the funeral the next day, stood at the graveside while they lowered an empty coffin, accepted condolences, returned home to Emma, who waited in her frozen chamber. I visited her daily, descended those stone steps, moved aside the stone, entered that frigid space. Sometimes I would sit beside the box for hours, speaking to her, telling her about my day, and always my breasts would ache at the sight of her box. My body recognizing that my baby was near, was here, was waiting. For 6 months this continued. 6 months of secret visits. 6 months of milk expressed and stored in bottles that filled the ice house. 6 months of the household believing I was recovering, while I descended deeper into grief so profound it had carved out a separate reality. But then, last December, 1 year after Emma's death, something changed. I had gone to the frozen chamber as I did every day, had opened the box, had unwrapped a portion of linen to see Emma's face, to touch her cold cheek. My breasts were painfully full that morning. I had not expressed milk yet. The pressure was excruciating, and I thought, and I know how insane this sounds, but I thought, why am I expressing milk into bottles when my daughter is right here? The logic was flawless. The logic was insane. I lifted Emma from the box. She was still wrapped in linen, still frozen solid, still very much dead. But she was my daughter, and my body was producing milk for her, and she was here. I sat on the frozen floor and held her wrapped form in my arms, positioning her as I used to when she was alive. I loosened my dress, freed my breast. The milk was already leaking, and I pressed her cold, linen-wrapped face against my nipple. Nothing happened, of course. She did not latch. She was frozen solid, a corpse 1 year old. But the milk came anyway. It leaked from my nipple in hot streams, soaked into the linen, covering her face, dripped onto her wrapped lips. I squeezed my breast gently and more flowed, streaming over the cloth, seeping through to the frozen skin beneath. And I felt it. The release, the relief, the rightness of it. This was what the milk was for, not bottles, not storage. This, my daughter, here. I sat in that frozen chamber for perhaps an hour, expressing milk over Emma's face, letting it soak through the linen. When my breasts were finally empty, I wrapped Emma again, placed her back in the box, sealed the chamber, and returned upstairs. I did not feel mad. I felt purposeful. I felt, for the first time since her death, as though I was doing what a mother should do, feeding my child, and so I continued, not every day at first. Just when the pressure became unbearable, perhaps once a week, then twice, then every other day, then daily, then twice daily, each time I would descend to the frozen chamber, take Emma from her box and nurse her, let the milk flow over her wrapped face, soak through the linen. It should have disgusted me. It felt natural, maternal, right. And over the months, slowly at first, so slowly I told myself it was imagination, Emma began to change. She grew heavier when I lifted her. Not dramatically, but heavier nonetheless. As though she was becoming more solid, more substantial. Her body felt less rigid beneath the wrappings, more supple, as though the frozen hardness was giving way to something closer to living flesh. And there was warmth, just the faintest hint at first. But when I held her, when I nursed her, I felt warmth radiating from within the wrappings. I told myself it was wishful thinking, that grief was making me see things that were not there. But the changes continued. By late spring of 1892, 6 months after I had begun nursing her, I could no longer deny what was happening. Emma was definitely heavier. Her body felt fuller, less desiccated, and the warmth had increased to the point where I could feel it clearly. By summer I was nursing her daily. The milk came more copiously than ever, as though my body understood. Emma needed it. Emma was using it. Emma was feeding and growing. By autumn of 1892, nearly 2 years after her death, I could see the changes even through the linen wrappings. Her form had lengthened. The infant-sized bundle was now visibly larger. I had to rewrap her in more linen, find a bigger box. And one day in October I unwrapped her face. I had not done this since first wrapping her. But that day, driven by impulse I could not name, I carefully unwrapped the linen from her face. And she no longer looked like the 6-month-old infant who had died. She looked older, perhaps 2 years. Her features had developed, matured, become more defined. Her face was no longer soft and unformed, but more distinct, more individual. I should have been terrified. I was grateful. My daughter was coming back to me, growing back to life through the only thing a mother can give, her milk. The nursing became ritual, sacred, essential. Twice daily without fail I descended and fed her, and with each feeding the changes accelerated. By January of 1893, Emma looked 3 years old. Her body had lengthened significantly, her features had matured further. I had to wrap her in adult-sized linen because the infant cloths could no longer contain her. By summer she looked 5 years old, 6, 7, growing at impossible speed, as though each nursing gave her not just nourishment but time itself. As though the milk contained years, life, growth condensed into liquid form. And through all of this, the milk itself began to change. It started in November of this year. The milk took on a slightly grey tinge when I expressed it. Not much, just enough that I noticed when I looked at it in the bowl. By mid-November the grey had deepened. The milk looked old, spoiled almost, just as though it had no mel. And 2 weeks ago the milk turned black, not grey, black, completely black. The colour of ink, of coal, of the deepest darkness, and thick, viscous, more like oil than milk. Pouring from my nipples in slow heavy streams, the smell changed too, no longer sweet but earthy, like soil, like graves, like things that grow in darkness and feed on decay. I should have stopped then, but I could hear her, Emma, from the frozen chamber. I could hear her moving. At first, just small sounds, a scrape of wood, a rustle of linen, but the sounds grew louder, more deliberate, more purposeful. the sound of something unwrapping itself, the sound of something pushing against the box lid, the sound of something that had been still for 3 years, learning how to move again. And 3 nights ago I heard her voice. Not a cry, not a baby's wail, but words. Mama, Mama, hungry there, my daughter is awake, and she is calling for me. And my breasts are full to bursting with the black message she needs to complete whatever transformation has been occurring. And I must go to her now, must descend those stone steps one final time, must see what 3 years of nursing a corpse has created, must see what my daughter has become. December 1st, 1893, 11:34 p.m. I write this quickly before I descend. If I do not return, someone must know what happened here. The black milk pours from my breast now without any pressure. It simply flows, streams down my stomach, soaks through my dress, drips onto these pages. You can see the stains, those dark splotches that mar the paper. That is the milk. That is what I have been producing for weeks. I can hear her more clearly now. Her voice is not a child's voice anymore. It is deeper, older, the voice of a woman, though not quite human in its timbre, as though she has learned to speak in darkness, has taught herself language without ever hearing another voice. I am not afraid, that is the strange thing. I should be terrified, should be fleeing, but I am eager. My daughter is awake and she needs me, and I can finally fulfill my purpose as her mother. At 11:47 p.m. I can see the ice house from my study window. The door stands open. I do not remember opening it, but it stands open. And I can see light coming from within, not lamplight, but something else. A phosphorescent glow, pale blue-green, like foxfire, like things that decompose and produce their own illumination. Emma is down there, glowing, waiting. 11:52 p.m. I am at the entrance to the frozen chamber. The heavy stone that sealed it has been moved aside. I did not move it. It was sealed yesterday, but now it stands open, pushed aside from within. The phosphorescent glow pulses from inside, rhythmic, like breathing, like a heartbeat made visible. I can hear her. Mama, come, please, hungry, I am entering. The handwriting becomes erratic here. She is beautiful. The box is open, split apart from inside, the wood cracked. The linen lies in strips around the chamber. She stands in the centre of the frozen chamber. She is not 6 months old, not 3 years old, not any age I can name. She is ageless. Somewhere between child and adult, between living and dead. Her skin glows with that phosphorescent light. It comes from within her, radiates from her pores, illuminates the chamber, as though the milk I fed her has become luminescence. Her eyes are open. They were closed when she died, but they are open now. They watch me with intelligence, with awareness, with something beyond recognition. She knows I am her mother, and she is hungry. She moves toward me. Her movements are not quite right, not quite human. She walks, but also glides. Her limbs bend at angles that should not be possible, as though she has learned movement from something other than human observation, as though she has been practicing in the dark, teaching herself. She reaches for me. Her arms extend, her hands open, and I see that her fingers are too long, extra joints, fingers that can bend in ways fingers should not bend. Mama, she says. Her mouth moves, but the voice comes from everywhere. The milk, please. I open my dress, free my breasts. The black milk streams from my nipples, running down my stomach, dripping onto the frozen floor. She sees it. Her eyes widen. She smiles. She has teeth. She did not have teeth when she died, but she has them now, rows of them, sharp, white, gleaming. She is not the size of a child, she is my height, as though she has grown not to childhood but directly to maturity, as though the milk fed her all the years she would have had if she had lived. She is the woman my daughter would have become. She kneels before me. "Come," I say, "drink." She latches, and oh God, she pulls. Not like a baby, not gentle. She drinks like something starving, like something that has waited 3 years for this moment. The milk flows, pours, streams from my breast into her mouth in thick black rivers. She swallows and swallows without pause, and still there is more, and I feel it, feel something more than milk leaving my body, something essential being drawn from my core, pulled through my breast, transferred to her, not just nourishment, life itself. She is taking my life, drinking it, making it her own, and I let her. This is what I have been preparing for. The final feeding, the complete transfer. She is getting warmer. I can feel it. Her cold flesh heating. Her heart, I can feel her heart now, beating stronger, faster, more alive with every swallow. And I am getting colder, weaker, as though I am being hollowed out. My vision blurs. My hands go numb. I can barely hold this pen, but I must write. She drinks, and I give and give, life for death, death for life, mother to daughter. I am so cold now, can barely sit upright. She supports me with one arm while she nurses. She is almost finished, almost full, almost alive, and I am almost gone, but I am not afraid. This is right. This is the only way a mother can atone for killing her child, by dying in her place, by giving her back all the years I took. She releases my breast, sits back, looks at me. She is fully alive now. Her skin is warm, her eyes bright, her heart beats strong. She breathes, and I am dying. She leans down, kisses my forehead with warm lips. "Thank you, Mama, thank you for bringing me back." And I managed to smile, because I did bring her back, and now she lives, and I can rest. The darkness takes me. Editor's note. This document was discovered December 15th, 1893, in the frozen chamber of Ashworth House Ice House, clutched in Catherine Ashworth's hands. Her body was in advanced desiccation, as though dead for years, not days. The flesh was hollow, collapsed, as though something had drained every drop of moisture. The breasts were completely flat, withered beyond recognition. The nipples showed signs of extreme trauma and recent lactation. Active milk ducts, developed glandular structures, despite the overall desiccation. Chemical analysis of residue found in the breast tissue revealed a black substance unlike any human milk. It contained mercury and morphine consistent with teething powders, plus unknown organic compounds that resisted identification. When exposed to air, the substance phosphoresced faintly. The wooden box was split apart from inside. Linen wrappings lay scattered. No child's body was found. Exhumation of Emma Ashworth's grave confirmed the coffin was empty. The frozen chamber contained 3 bottles of breast milk showing progressive darkening from white to black over 3 years. Footprints on the chamber floor showed progression from infant-sized to adult-sized. as though something had learned to walk there, something that grew as it learned. In Thornby village, 6 miles away, a woman appeared December 2nd, 1893, approximately 25 years old. She gave her name as Emma. She stayed at the vicarage 3 weeks. The vicar's wife noted in her diary, "Emma eats nothing. Says her mother gave her enough to last. Her skin is unnaturally warm. She watches everything as though learning what it means to be alive. She asked me repeatedly about mothers, about what mothers do, what children owe them. When I told her mothers give freely, expecting nothing, she wept. She said, 'My mother gave everything. I must find a way to honour that.'" Emma vanished December 22nd, but there were other sightings. London, 1895. A nurse named Emma working with dying children. Never ate, never aged, radiated abnormal heat. Children who died in her care seemed peaceful, eager, as though death was transformation they welcomed. Wales, 1903. An orphanage run by Emma, caring for deformed and dying children. Many thrived despite terminal prognoses. Emma never aged. The orphanage burned in 1911. Emma's body was never found, nor were the bodies of 12 children in her care. London, 1947. A nurse named Emma in paediatrics. Premature infants survived impossible odds in her presence. One doctor wrote, "She radiates life itself. Infants near death recover when she holds them. She claims her mother taught her that life can be given even when death seems certain, that a mother's gift never dies but can be passed on to others who need it." Emma vanished in 1948. If these reports are true, if this Emma is somehow the same who died in 1890, who was nursed for 3 years on black milk, who emerged alive and adult, then she continues what her mother started, still caring for the dying, still giving them what Catherine gave her, transformation, continuation, a second chance beyond natural ending, still repaying the debt, the gift, the terrible sacrifice made in that frozen chamber. In 1952, workers clearing Ashworth House ruins found bottles buried in the ice house foundations, each containing frozen black liquid. One bottle was opened. The substance began to glow and pulsed like a heartbeat, and those present swore they heard something from the liquid itself, the sound of an infant, crying, hungry, waiting to be fed,